What's going on, everyone? And before we get into the tier list, I did want to mention that I do have memberships. I've had memberships for a little while now, and I haven't promoted it in a while. But yeah, if you do like my content and you do want to support me while also having a little bit of perks along with the membership, then do consider, as this is a great way to support me. It is $2.99 a month. You get these loyalty badges, which I think are pretty sick. I may have a bias though. You also get custom emotes for the people who join this, on top of shoutouts at the end of my videos. If you stay long enough to the end of most of my videos, you'll see the list where you would put what your name would be. And then finally, we do have a gameplay review / coaching priority. If you get this will give you priority to allow me to help you with gameplay reviews or coaching priorities, or even like a build thing, any type of thing related to Smite that I can help you with, as long as it's not too crazy, like taking over your account or something. Then I'll be sure to give you priority for this if you are a member. So if you'd like to support me, you like my videos, and you want to be a official member of the channel, please do consider this. This is, like I said, one of the best ways to support me. But with that out of the way, on to the tier list video. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to your ADC / Hunter tier list. Now, there are a couple other ADCs in this tier list, your mage ADCs specifically, that are on this list that I wanted to include. I went over this before in my other videos if you've seen, but I'm going over individual classes, so your hunters, mages, guardians, warriors, and your hybrid assassins type thing. So I'm combining the guardian and the warriors as tanks, ADCs as your hunters and your mage ADCs, your mage burst mages, and then your hybrid assassins / any other god that can kind of build hybrid that isn't necessarily an assassin. So very similar to this, we're gonna go over every god that is built like an ADC. But I think that's everything I have, actually. Let's just fucking get into this, shall we? Actually, I should be adding this. I don't know why this didn't pop up here. This should be S. This should be A. S plus. And there we go. Actually, I'm gonna change colors. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm worried about the colors. I wanted to make sure that they were a little bit different than what they were just a second ago. I didn't feel like they were what they should be for each tier. But very quickly, S plus, these are your gods you want to ban. Not necessarily your top bans, like, oh, you need to get this god out, the first ban for every game. It just means specifically for your ADCs, these are the gods you may want to ban. So if you've already banned out the gods you want to prioritize every single game, for example, like Achilles or Kuzumba or Chiron, and you want to ban some ADCs, that'll be in your S plus category. So these are gonna be your best of the best. Want to make sure you try to ban when you're banning ADCs. That'll be up there. S is borderline like broken, always good. Not like you need to ban every single game, but if you play them, you're gonna do pretty well with them. A is your pretty solid, very good on almost every single team comp. Not the best, not the worst, but very, very good. B is gonna be your mid, gonna be kind of meh. A lot of other gods do, ADCs do a lot better than B. C is niche, not really much to be said here, other than, like, you know, you need a team to facilitate this god, otherwise they're not really that good. And then D is dog shit. So dog shit being dog shit. But let's get into this. So ADCs, let's get it, baby. So starting with AMC, so I'm trying to think. ADCs are in a very interesting spot, I think. They're very good right now, but at the same time, like for Conquest, gods like AMC, Martichoras have kind of taken over the mid lane, which isn't really much of a thing in Joust. So a lot of those gods who are dominating the meta, like AMC and Marty in the mid lane, doing so much damage, which is why they're being nerfed, doesn't really follow too much into the Joust scene. So a lot of those gods actually aren't like as crazy as they would be in Conquest, for example. But statistically, a god like AMC, I mean, it'd be wrong for me not to do this. I gotta put him in S. He wasn't as good. He's been weird. He's been S plus ban all the time at one point, and then Marty came out and Marty was better. But then he's fallen off a little bit because of the ADC meta, where we were just building attack speed, which AMC doesn't really do well He can, just doesn't do it well as other gods, so why would you pick him? But really quickly, statistically, let's go over here. AMC is technically, statistically, the best hunter in Joust right now. That doesn't necessarily mean he's that good, because this goes from all tiers, from bronze to GM. So that doesn't necessarily mean too much, but it does mean something. So I think personally AMC is not the greatest. You can definitely, I think there's other guys that do what he does better, but double guarding AMC, oh baby, that shit fucks. So AMC, I'm going to put in S tier, just because statistically, I mean, it just makes sense to do that. I don't want to put him S plus tier because I don't think he's banned every single time. I think there are other ADCs that you need to ban before him. But it'd be wrong for me not to put him any more, or to put him any lower than S. So that is your god for it, or that's your tier for AMC. Anhur, in my opinion, I think is one of the best ADCs right now. I can't play him for shit, but I know other people can, and his 3-2 ult 1 with his pillar, he just does so much fucking damage, does whatever the hell he wants. He has flat pen in his kit, in his passive. I think it's 20 flat pen basically. That's disgusting. So early game he does what the fuck he wants, and then if you have a facilitated team that just allows you to that allows you to have setup and peel, he can just free cash with his autos, and his autos fucking chunk. They do so much damage. With the ADC builds building a lot of percent pen, he does so much fucking damage. So in my opinion, S plus tier. He is high skill ceiling, so you don't want to just randomly pick him up one day and be like, oh, I'm gonna be a beast with him. You do have to play him a decent amount, but not even that. You can still play him very well without having too much practice on him. He's so fucking good. I think he's the best right now in my opinion. Apollo, as you can see probably in my old videos. Fuck, where am I gonna put this god? I think he's bad, so I am gonna put him in D. Apollo's just bad. He just doesn't do anything. He does what he has. What oboe? I'm sorry, not oboe. Silver branch bow with his passive. That's basically it. And his ult to occasionally, like maybe you can get bull demon, maybe. But if the enemy team is smart, they just ward it. So he doesn't do anything. Every other god, in my opinion, almost every other god, in my opinion, we'll see, does what he does better. Not very good at all. Artemis, I think, is pretty solid. I don't know. Maybe she got a recent buff or something, but I've seen her a lot more in the meta, and I've actually been liking to see her. She does a lot of damage, and her ult has CC immune, very safe. If you go into if you have a double tank team comp, she's a beast. She has slow in her 3. You can build her like hybrid if you wanted to as well. She can be built like that too. Not the best, but she can be built like that. One thing that I do think stops her from that being higher up is just because she doesn't have a getaway ability. She has a movement speed in her 2 and a stim. But other than that, you have your CC immune ult, which is still the safety factor, which allows her to be up in A tier in my opinion. She does a fuck ton of damage too. Don't get me wrong on that, but she's just not like, you know, she's not going to be the safest god in the world. So you do have if you're going up against a high CC team, I would suggest not building Artemis, because if you go up against a Cap, for example, you're going to need to play position perfectly. But I do think she's a pretty solid and a lot better than what she once was. Chernobog, I'm going to put Chronos as an A too. I think he's very good as well. Not much to be said about him, honestly. He's one of those gods that are just standard, just good. Is late game, he does chunk with his autos. He does have a dash. His ult does not CC immune, but he's still pretty solid. He can get picked pretty easily, depending on how you play him. His dash doesn't go through walls or anything, so certain gods can counter him pretty easily. You get like an Odin, he's just fucked. So he does have a decent amount of weaknesses. On top of that CC immunity factor, doesn't have CC immunity, so you can do a lot of things against him that you couldn't against other gods like Hou Yi, Hachiman, shit like that. So I'd say he's a pretty solid god. Charybdis, I'm gonna put in B. I think she's a little too clunky with her 3 and her ult. With her 3 specifically, you can get away with shit. You can go underground and whatnot, but you know, things like her ult, for example, is super clunky. It's CC immune ult and you can like run away, but it kind of takes away from her kit. You have your 2 and your 1, which do a lot of fucking damage. She is relatively safe with her 3, but There are a lot of other gods that I think just do what she does a lot better. I'm gonna keep saying that a lot apparently, but I just don't think she does that much for you compared to other gods. Pretty safe, but still clunky with her 3. You have to time it right, and then her ult obviously just doesn't do much outside of like run away. Chernobog, very similar. You can make him work, but it's going to be a little bit harder to make him work. Pretty safe with his ult and his 3. His ult doesn't have a lot of utility like it would in Conquest, as he would ult across the map. In Joust, your only time to do it is really to just like go back to lane really quickly. And generally speaking, you're always going to be in a 3v3, so it's like not the greatest. And then if you try to run away, for example, you get low, you're just going to ult up in the air and then come right back down. So it's going to be a little bit harder to use him specifically in his ult. But his 3 is very good. You can go through walls and shit, go into walls and go out. But I think there's other gods that do what he does better. But I'd say he's probably mid-tier, not the greatest in my opinion. Chiron, I think, oof. Where do I want to put Chiron? I think Chiron's A. Borderline S. He doesn't, there's not really much change with him. He's very safe with his ult. Can be played basically like a mage. He's not a traditional hunter, so you can do that, I guess, with his 1, 2, 3. He's gotten a little bit better though, so I am going to push him up to S. With the quality of life changes that he's gotten, I think he's a little bit better. You can now 3, 2. So you use your 3 and you let's say you auto them or whatever. You can use your 2 and while you're mid casting of your 3, which is a really good quality of life change. He's pretty safe with his ult and his 3. Getaway is pretty solid. A better version of Cernunnos basically, as you can like giddy up them back or whatever the hell that is called. So super safe, very similar to AMC. That's basically it. Recently got buffs, and I think that's really pushed him up a little bit more. Chronos. Talking about this before, I think Chronos is, as an ADC, better than he is currently as a burst mage, and that's just because of all the things that they did to mages in general. I don't need to reiterate it, but the mages are worse, burst mages, and so I think ADCs are going to be a little bit better for you. Not to say that the rings are like crazy or anything. Rings are kind of meh too, because they still, the damage that they give still fall off because of the mage changes. But I think Chronos is probably a better ADC than he is a mage currently, to take that role as the backline ADC for late game. Cupid, where do I want to put this fucking guy? Cupid can be really, really good, but I think he's probably below average, below solid at least in my opinion. His ult's really good and can combo really well with other guardians, but he's just not that good. He's got recent buffs that he's gotten, but I don't think that pushes him anywhere up compared to other ADCs. He doesn't have a CC immune ult. His 3 is pretty solid, and he does have a decent amount of healing, which makes him kind of solid in that regard. But other than that, he just doesn't do much compared to other hunters. Danzaborou. Where do I want to put this guy? I'm probably going to put him in B as well. Yeah, I'm going to put him in B. You can build him as your ability. You can build him actually anything. You can build him a hybrid. I think he's better hybrid than anything else in my opinion. I just like the hybrid Danza build and be hyping that bitch up. But I think Danza is a pretty okay god, middle of the road. He can go your ability based build. You can go trans soul eater with his 1. His 1 does so much damage with that too. He kind of takes, he's not a high skill ceiling god, but he does have that ceiling to where if you're like a really good Danza, you can kind of do whatever the fuck you want, trick people out with your 3, ult away. But he is kind of finicky with his ults, not the safest god in the world. So if you do get caught in your leaf, if you come out of your leaf like circle thing and become a leaf and they catch you, then you're kind of fucked, because at that point, even if you ult away, you're just gonna ult into them most likely. But I think he is as good as that hybrid type of character, more generally speaking, and I think that's what and even still, he's not that great to put him in like solid or anything like that. So I think he's just middle of the road. Freya, I think Freya is a lot better. Freya late game, obviously Freya late game is really good, but like I feel like every time I played it with or as a Freya, She's so fucking good. Even against the Freya. Freya does so much damage, even early. With Conduit Gem being better, you can build Conduit on her. And her early game is still very, very good. Or her early game is now better. And her early game isn't really that great to begin with. But it does make it to where getting to that mid game is going to be a lot easier than obviously late game. She kind of just solos anyone. But she does a lot of damage. Nothing really specifically to her kit, just basically her items and how she's played in the current meta. She destroys tanks as well. That's where I would put her, probably A. Hachiman, gonna be your S+ hunter. Hachiman, God, he's the safest hunter in the game. If you're not playing him, you should be. Ult, CC immune ult, 3 that can stun. So much long range damage with his 1 and his 2. And you know, what can you get more? You can build other items like Silver Branch with his 2. You can overcap with tanks buying, shoguns, and Talisman of Energy. He's very good. He can get over that attack speed cap really easily. And so I think the safety factor, the amount of damage he does, he's just still S tier. What can I say? So fucking good. Other than Anhur, I think he's your second best hunter in my opinion. Heimdallr, I'm going to put in B too. He has a very high skill ceiling. So if you are a good Heimdallr, you can basically S+ with his 3 and shit, hitting your autos. But again, high skill ceiling. You have to play him well to make him work. He chunks, obviously. But with the double tank team comp, you kind of just... You need to use your 3. With the amount of CC you have, it's also harder to do. So you're going to be burning your beads a lot to just run away. And he does cook. You have to let him cook, so you have to get a lot of your items online. But I think overall he's just middle of the road. Here's your next S+ god. There's your Hou Yi. Hou Yi is so good. I mean, they keep buffing him in terms of conquest, and that's fine and all, but the residual effects of it just make him more and more and more busted. I almost want to put him higher, but the other 2 gods are still so fucking good. I mean, you can make your arguments up here. All 3 of these gods at the top are definitely S tier though. And I mean, they keep buffing his 1. He has so much damage with his 2 with the autos and shit, allowing him to do more damage with the autos. You have your stun, you have your triple bounce, shit like that. There's a lot of triple bounces, not as much as compared to the old Joust map, but he still does a lot, or he does have a lot of bounces for Hou Yi 1. And then of course his ult. I mean, a certain team comp that I like to go with him with the Hou Yi and Kabraken's so fucking good as well. Certain guys like that can kind of synergize with Hou Yi's and make him even better. Not much change though, except that they kept buffing him with his 1. I mean, his 1's got buffed like at least 5 times, dude. In the past like 2 years, it's had to have fucking been buffed 5 times at the very least. Alright, sorry about that. Ishtar. I'm actually gonna put Ishtar in A. I think she's pretty solid right now. Very AA ability. I'm sorry, auto attack centric. Very safe. Has a lot of setup with her ult. Played with her the other day as like a Fafnir. Super disgusting, I gotta say. Her long range auto is very similar to Hachi. In fact, I am gonna put her up 1. I think she is borderline S. You can make an argument for high A, but I think Ishtar is super solid right now. She works well with Oboe. I mean, she has so many items. I mean, her passive allows her to get Silver Branch as well with attack speed. She basically has everything you want as an AA hunter. One of the main things that I do think that puts her back a little bit is her 3. It's a little bit finicky. So if you get blocked by her 3, let's say you're trying to run away and someone steps in front of you or something, you 3 on them and you backflip towards the team basically. But if you backflip on the opposite direction where someone's trying to block you, that's not very good, and so you can get killed like that a lot. But she does have a CC immune ult, which makes her better by default, so I would put her in S. And she does so much damage with her lob autos in her 1. 2 is stun and shit like that. The Mez is technically a Mez. Very, very good. Any hunter that has a lot of CC is going to be very good too. Izanami, I'm never going to really like this god. I'm going to put her in C. Keep in mind, all these hunters, once you get late game, can fuck. But like, it's one of those things where up until then, how hard is it going to be to do that against other gods who have, or other hunters too you're going to be going up against? Crazy lane pressure. That's about it. You have your ult, your 2, your 3 is pretty predictable. It can be annoying sometimes. You can get away sometimes, but it's not consistent the higher you go up. You can run lobbies at like silver and gold with this, and that's about it. Not much to offer. I'd say almost every other god's better than her. Jing Wei, oh, she's so weird. I'm gonna put her in B. I think that the ability to go lane with her passive is so annoying. You kill her once and she's already back. Crit meta really isn't a thing right now, so I think that pushes her back a little bit. And she does take a while to get online. She kind of is like a niche pick, so I am just gonna put her in C actually. I think she's still a lot better than like Izanami or Apollo, but I think like Sobek, for example, she'd be pretty good into like a Sobek. That's what I mean by like niche picks or like team comps that can go around. If you get a late game Jing Wei, she kind of good luck, because if she just leaves, goes back, she can go do Bull Demon while you're still like returning to base basically. So she can do cheeky stuff. It's just you got to get her to that point. She does a fuck ton of damage. She has innate crit, which is nice, but you really want to build her with crit to facilitate that. And currently we're not in crit meta, so not the greatest. You can put her in B if you'd like, but personally I think she's kind of niche in that way. Marty, I'm gonna put Marty in S2. Very similar to AMC, plays like that, very safer in my opinion. He recently got nerfed, but I still think that just 10 seconds isn't gonna do too much. You build 40% cooldown on this god, so I mean you're bumping that cooldown by like 50 seconds, close to 50 seconds, so it's up every minute and 10 seconds anyways, so that's not gonna be that big of a deal. Regardless, you're gonna have it up every other team fight, so it doesn't really matter too much. Safest lane pressure, I'm thinking about playing Marty more, because you just use your 1-2 combo and you hide in the bushes, and if you have like 2 guardians that facilitate you, like a Bacchus Cabrakan and a Marty, I mean, you don't ever die. So I think with AMC and Marty is definitely really good. And even though these gods, like I said earlier, Marty and AMC aren't as good in Joust as they would be in Conquest, that is true. They're still fucking good. They're still really fucking good. And the statistics show that too. Medusa. I think Medusa is S tier. I don't know, man. She just does so much fucking damage. I think they buffed her again or something, man. But like, she's just popped up back in the meta for a brief bit. I haven't seen her in a while, but I still think nothing's really changed with her. She does a lot of damage with her 2, 1, 3 ult. Same shit. But her ult it really isn't her ult that makes her that good. You can put her in A, but I still think she's S because she does so much damage. You don't build her like a traditional ADC. Building things like Trans, Crusher, you still build items like Dominance or things like that. You can build Found on her. There's other things you can build on her because she just has so much innate power that you can build things like Trans, Crusher and do a lot of damage while also being that ADC type of build. So I think she's S. If you're playing in your gold, silver elos, she's probably S+. But generally speaking, I think she's a very solid pick and better than almost every other one. Neith has been popping up in the meta, which is really weird. I'd generally put her in BC. I think she's A. And I knew this was going to be the day that, ever since, I don't know if you guys remember, but I think last season, they buffed her like 18,000 times. Not really, but they buffed her like 5, 6, 7, 8 times, just giving her damage, cooldown reduction, you know. There's like a stratified version of her, like, you know, every time she levels up her ability, she reduces it by 1 second. Just shit like that. And so you can build her like a mage and you just blow people up. And so like, as much as I don't like seeing Neith, nowadays, I don't know, man, she's pretty good. And I've been seeing her a lot more. And so I think she's a very solid pick. You do want to make sure you build her more ability based, in my opinion. Now you can build like a hybrid between your autos and ability based, but I would not recommend full auto attack. I don't think she's built like that. When you use your 3, or basically your passive, you can use your 1, blows them up, stuns them for a long ass time. You can use your 2. I mean, all of her abilities are synergized based off of damage rather than, you know, auto attack based items. So I do think she's really good right now, and you want to build her either hybrid ability based or just pure ability based, like Trans, Jotuns, Crusher, Heartseeker, stuff like that. Olorun, I think, has one of the biggest potentials, but I think he kind of fell off in my opinion. I think he's kind of like B. I think I put him in S tier at one point, and that was just because he did so much fucking damage to backlines and shit like that. But against double tanks, it's a lot harder to do. Now, of course, late game you fucking shred. If you get late game, Olorun and Freya are your fucking ADCs. So he can do a lot, and that kind of pushes me to put him in B. But he still is very susceptible to CC. It's just his ult that makes him so fucking good. His ult 3 and 2. So if you ever get late game, one ult away can win the game. Poseidon ADC, don't do that. You know, Poseidon ADC is okay. Still C, niche. You don't want to build him. You don't really want to build him like this, but I've seen him do a lot of fucking damage with his 2, regardless of whether or not you use like earrings and attack speed. But even if you do earrings and attack speed, I'm sorry, rings and attack speed items like that, then I think he still does a lot of fucking damage. He's fallen off a little bit with that build, but I still think he is still pretty good with it. Not compared to every other god on here, but considering the damage you can do with him, you can build this, and it is kind of niche. You got to facilitate yourself around it, play around it, and have a team comp that can help you with that. Up next, we have Rama. I want to put him S, but that's really the Ramas that I see, so that's kind of skewed. Rama generally is A. He's got a high skill ceiling with his autos specifically. He's not a god that you can crutch off of with abilities like AMC, Hou Yi even, or like a Hachiman, because Hachiman can throw down his 2 or whatever. Rama doesn't have that. He has his auto attack stim in his 2, and his 1 and his 3, which he doesn't have any. It's basically pure autos. So if you can hit your autos, you probably should not play this god. But if you can hit your autos, I mean, eventually going into a Silver Branch is really good. The only damage dealing ability he has is his ult, which takes a lot of mechanical skill, but that's not really why you play him. You really play him for his autos. So if you can hit your autos, I'd suggest not playing him. But if you can, he's a fucking menace. And if you're really good with him, I'd say he's S plus at some ranks. He's really fucking good. High skill ceiling for that though. Skadi, I'm gonna put in C. I don't think she does much. Do I want to put her in C or do I want to put her in D? Alright, she got a recent buff. I'll give it to her. I want to put her in D. She got a recent buff with her 2 to where now I think it doesn't get destroyed by minions and buff camps anymore. I think it takes like 3 hits per minion or 3 hits per auto camp or per buff camp that make it to where now her Calder just doesn't instantly die, which is good quality of life. And so I'll put her in C. Super easy to kill. The way she's built, you don't build her like a regular ADC, you build her with damage, and so she can kind of get fucked like that late game too. You can pub stomp with this god though. So low elos, she's a lot better. High elos, she just gets destroyed. Guardians kill her very easily. So play her at your will. She's kind of bad. But you need a team to specifically facilitate her, or you need to play her into a team comp you know you can fuck. Soul ADC, I'm gonna put her in B. Very similar to the mage ADC, burst mage tier list. I think she's okay. Not the greatest. She's kind of in that very similar spot. You can build her ADC, you can build her mage, burst mage, and I think currently, well, generally speaking, I think the burst mage build is a lot better on her. Sprinkle in like maybe 1 ring if you want to, but because they're kind of both mid right now, both builds are kind of mid, she kind of just falls in that same category. It really just depends your preference at this point, because either one of those builds are solid or mid, whatever you want to call it, just compared to like everything else. So Soul's mid in terms of both tier list ADC and ADC and ability based. Ullr. Ullr's so fucking good right now. I'm gonna put him in S though. The reason why I want to put him in S plus is because the lobbies that I play him in, he's really good. Once you get to your like high diamond masters and obviously GM, Ullr is probably the best hunter. But generally speaking, he's super hard to play. And so from a standpoint of like the general public in terms of Joust, which I'm basically making all these tier lists off of, and plus my opinion, I don't think he deserves S+. There's not enough people that are really good at Ullr to where you need to ban him. Now, if you get up into that Masters GM, I suggest you start banning him over other gods like this, because you are bound to see these gods, this guy a lot more. He's gotten a lot of buffs in the past, making him better. He basically reworked his entire ult, where now I think he gets, I can't remember, they flipped the ult to where I think what was it, auto attack speed, I can't remember. You can go back and look, but I don't play Ullr enough to know. But he definitely, they switched his ult around, they gave him more damage, made it a lot easier. Cooldown Bobbles build is really decent, or pretty decent on him. Not the best. You want to make sure you get your damage, because as Ullr you want a one shot. But Ullr, high skill ceiling, which keeps him from S+. But very good if you are very good with him. X-Ball, fall from grace. Not really a fall from grace, but he is S tier in my opinion. He's somewhere along here. I'm not ranking in between each tier, but I think he's fallen off a little bit. Not as safe compared to these other gods like Hachi, Hou Yi, and Anhur. When you're going up against the double tank, he can get locked down pretty easily. He has his 3 that can get interrupted, by the way, and so he's not that safe compared to these gods. But again, he's still an S tier because he does so much fucking damage. You let a X-Ball free cast to late game, or you let that X-Ball get to late game, that might be GG's for you, because he still fucks. He still has that same damage, has that same pressure when it comes to that. It's just he's not as good with a double tank meta, because he can get shut down. He doesn't have a lot of consistent get away with his 3. Like, again, he can still get away, but it's a lot harder to do. You get shut down a lot easier, and there's more room for you to get shut down, locked down by guardians and warriors than on your traditional team comp, where he was at busted the best hunter in Joust. But still very good. Zeus, don't play Zeus. I don't know why I even play. I should probably get rid of this god here, and maybe Poseidon, although they still can do auto attack base. With his changes a little bit ago, he was able to go auto attack base, and it was okay. But now you don't want to build him like that. Zhong Kui, if you don't know, Zhong, it's kind of like known by now. It's not really in the meta anymore. But so I won't put him in B. I'll put him in C. He has the highest DPS per auto with his passive with Telekine's Ring with his already auto. So you're basically doing 3 procs whenever he autos. And so he has like one of the highest potentials for DPS. But again, he is Zhong Kui in Joust, so he's going to get shut down a lot. He's not going to be able to do what he does best. And I think other hunters do what he does a lot better. And I think he's gotten worse. Not a lot of people play him because he's not as good as he once was back in last season. But still a very fun build if you want to try it. Very fun build. And finally, we got the new god. Newt, or Nut. We could call her Nut. So, where should we put this one? I have played a decent amount of games against Nut to, figure out why, where, how she plays in Joust. And, drumroll please. No, this is not actually drumroll. I'm trying to think, A or B here. Definitely one of those. I'm gonna put her in B. She's kind of mid. She has a high skill ceiling. Her 3 is very similar to Merlin's Flicker, where very easy to trace down. Her ult puts her back into place, which makes her kind of suck, because you ult and you just wait for her to, you're just T-posing, waiting for her to come back down, and then you just kill her for free. But she can be very good if you play her at a high level, which is why she has a high skill ceiling. Any guys that have abilities like flickers or anything like that, there's a lot of high margin for error, very similar like a Merlin, that make it to where they are a lot harder to play at just a general level. I think that's where she falls. Her 1-2 combo are kind of meh. Her 1 is probably her best, and that ability is just mid. All around, she's just a mid character in my opinion. Don't ban her. She's a new god, so like people want to ban her, but don't. New to ranked at least, but yeah, surprisingly not good. Not as great as I would assume she would be. From what she looked like she was going to be when she first released, she's going to be busted, but turns out that I thought wrong, because she's definitely mid. Don't really need to ban her, really care too much about her. But that is it. That is your ADC tier list. A lot of things actually changed around. Xball used to be up here. Anhur actually wasn't up here, and Ullr I think was a little bit lower. But other gods like the ones down below are going to pretty much stay the same unless something drastic happens. But tell me what you guys think. Do you think I may have missed anything? I would say my weakest role is ADC, so if you have anything to critique, I would suggest critiquing this one, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm pretty good with these picks here. Even though my worst role is ADC, I still play ADC fairly well. So yeah, take that with what you will. Whatever. Take it as you please. But yeah, that's it for me. If you enjoy my content, like, comment, and subscribe. But that's everything that I have for you. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching.